partnered with business to effect change on a global scale, running a worldwide campaign centered on ending disease. Philanthropy is more than a brand, and paired with Red, the fight to do good has powered a movement.
I spent the whole week out here in San Francisco talking about the way business is being revolutionized by technology. But in many ways, the same thing's happening with charity. Just look at RED, the organization founded 10 years ago by Bobby Shriver and Bono, with the goal of making it easier for businesses and individuals to join the fight against AIDS. RED-sponsored products and concerts have helped raise an astounding $360 million to buy HIV drugs for people who need them in Sub-Saharan Africa. We caught up with RED, a key partner of Salesforce.com, as part of this year's Dreamforce presentation, and I got a chance to speak with Deb Dugan, the CEO of RED, about how her company's changing the way we think about AIDS treatment. Take a look at this. RED is probably, I think, the most successful, from my point of view, at running Mad Money and examining corporations, most successful at what it does. So just tell us how successful you've been.
Oh, my gosh. Thank you so much. Well, we came to be to solve a problem. So we've been successful at solving that problem. The Global Fund, which fights tuberculosis, malaria, and AIDS, in its beginning years, had countries giving in a war chest to do the right things and pool things together, and they wanted companies to come along. In the first 4 years, there was $4 million that came from companies and $4 billion that came from countries. So they said something has to change in this dynamic, otherwise actually the countries weren't going to come. Right. So Bono and Bobby Shriver had this idea to create a brand of philanthropy called RED.
Brand of philanthropy, yes.
So we didn't go to the CSR, the corporate responsibility people. We don't go to the foundations. We go to the head of marketing with a great idea at these companies, and we say, join us in this fight. So here we are 10 years later, $360 million to the Global Fund. 70 companies have helped us that otherwise I don't think would be in the fight against AIDS.
So you would go to the head of marketing, say, for Bank of America, and they would, even though you don't think of a bank necessarily as being charitable, they're all in.
They're all in. And I think, you know, when we look at companies, we look at, can they help us with money to the fund? Can they help us with awareness? Do they have a skill set to get the job done? Is there a courageous leader? Right. Brian Moynihan's a courageous leader.
I always feel like we're slighting companies because, or slighting the Gateses, slighting Apple, Mark Benioff, Coca-Cola. I mean, but you've been so successful that the list is too long. But there are people who are at your core.
Oh, absolutely. There are great companies that have been with us from the beginning. Apple has given over $110 million in the fight against AIDS. Nobody really knows that, but it's staggering.
No, good. We tell people.
I know we're telling people. Thank you, thank you. Bank of America also over 20 million. Starbucks, Coca-Cola, Belvedere vodka. You know, there's just been amazing, iconic companies. Salesforce has joined in 2015, but they're in it to 2020 because that's when the world can eliminate mother-child transmission of HIV. And it's a UN-vetted stat. It's not like, oh, pie in the sky. All of a sudden, something that was impossible in the 80s is now possible 30 years later.
I think that sometimes just we be empirical. The numbers who died, say, 5 years ago versus now versus what can happen 4 years from now.
Yeah, well, I'll get even more staggering than that. 35 million have died from this disease. That's like the population of Canada not being here, right? It's staggering. 37 million still have the disease. We have been successful in getting 17 million of them on life-saving medication that costs 30 cents a day. So we've seen dramatic swings, but the stakes are so high. #1 cause of death for women on reproductive age on the planet. #2 reason adolescents die on the planet after car crashes, and #1 killer of adolescents all throughout Africa. It can't be. This is preventable and treatable. And the world knows that it has to do the right thing. But NGOs can't do it on their own. Right. Companies have to help. And companies have to step up. And so RED tries to give them the tools to do that.
Anne Frank, I have to defer to someone who's much smarter than all of us. She said, no one has ever become poor by giving. do the companies know that they're not going to hurt their earnings by giving?
Oh my God, it is the best ROI for them.
Tell me.
It is the best return on investment. Well, first, their customers love it. Their employees get so much more engaged. And we're living in a generation now where 62% will take a cut in pay to have a job with purpose. So they demand that their company does
So if you want the
things.
smartest, best people, you think of this, you think of Red, not necessarily of trying to get that pay raise.
I think of Red as not getting that pay raise. Oh, yeah. Well, actually, Red has, sort of the win-win.
Right.
Because it's good for a brand, of course. It's good for their employees. But you know what? It's got the ultimate ROI, lives saved. How about that one?
Does social media help?
Social media is where it's at, of course. So we just came from a tech conference, Dreamforce, with Salesforce. We use the latest tools in following a customer journey. So we think, okay, how is that purchase to good? But wait a minute. What if you follow somebody's journey of values, of being a good person? Do they donate? Do they volunteer? Would they like to buy a product for good? Might they sign a petition and help us with policy?
Well, may every company watching who hasn't given yet understand what you do. That's Deb Dugan, CEO of Red.
Thank you so much.
Booyah! Jim Cramer here from Mad Money. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube. Click here to subscribe and get the jump on my exclusives with CEOs, plus market news, investing advice, and a whole lot more.